of we the people. So we've gathered here with a ton of people concerned, both from the grassroots side and from the GOP counties, to assess what can be done, and we've got the answer here for you tonight, so we're going to go ahead and let you guys know about that. But before we get started, I'm going to get Jonathan Lindsay. He's running for State Senate District 16. He's going to go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, which we have a beautiful waving flag right here on the flag on the TV, so if you can please stand. Uh-oh. Down there.
Move your mouse.
Move your mouth.
Hold the flag.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. Guys, thank you again, Jonathan. I appreciate you. He's go ahead and sent all of this food for us. He got it all ready for us, so I appreciate you and your efforts to feed everybody. So yeah, absolutely.
You're going to have MREs? You got to be kidding.
I almost did food last Valley Forge throwback.
You want to do it? Okay, we're going to go ahead and do an invocation real quick. John Rattan is our kind of our resident constitutional scholar, if you will. So,
not a scholar, constitutional student. You can never know everything that needs to be known about it. If everyone would stand and please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this night that we could all come together in the spirit of liberty and to support this great nation that you gave us so many years ago. And it's time that we keep this republic. So thank you for allowing us to be here. Please give us safe passage on the way home. Please give us wisdom and guidance in your name and in your will. We ask all these things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, sir. All right, guys, real quick, I just kind of wanted to give you a little background on how this even started. Right? Obviously, the 2020 election, that's kind of what kicked us all off. We saw what happened on November 3rd and then November 4th, and we just continue to see the pitfalls and everything that happened. All this fraud, because we're not going to dance around it anymore, right? We saw this fraud happen on November 3rd. So we reached out and we did whatever we needed to. We petitioned our legislatures. Went ahead and went through the court system. We did a ton of things. This gentleman sitting right beside me, Matt DePerno, has done more than probably anybody else in this entire nation to fight this fraud. So we're very, very blessed to have him with us. But as long as we continue to go through this process, we're not seeing the results that we need. We're not seeing it. And I'll be honest and frank with you guys, 2022, in my opinion, could be the fall of this republic if we don't fix this. And I'm just being blunt. I'm not going to dance around these words anymore. It's time to make the difference. So I reached out to John Smith right here. John, give a nice little hand raise right there. For those who don't know John Smith is the Secretary at Hillsdale County GOP. I reached out to him because he was the brightest mind I know, if that tells you anything about the people I hang out with. And I said, John, we need to do something because nobody else is doing it. Nobody is doing it. I'm ready to make this happen. And he goes, are you sure, man? I said, yeah. I'm sure. Are you sure? He was like, I don't know. Are you sure? I said, I guess. Let's do this thing. So over the course of the next couple weeks, actually a couple months now, John Rattan over here, John Smith, myself, and Darren Wisely, who is our attorney, Hillsdale attorney, and also the GOP chair at Hillsdale, we sat and we just kind of kept this under close to our chest, and we started writing a bill. We started researching. We started finding out what we could do to make sure that when we presented this as an initiative, that it could not fail, that there would be no loopholes, that words matter, and we weren't, again, going to dance around the words. What is a forensic audit? Oh, well, you'll hear people say, well, that's not defined. Well, we made sure we are defining things in this initiative. We are defining things. And it has to be done that way because we all know how the Democrats will do it. They'll play around the words, they'll dance around the words, and they'll create their own definitions. Every single time. We have to go on the offensive, and this is what this is. So I'm going to go ahead and I already went ahead and gave you guys kind of who these team members are. Sitting over here to my left, Angela Regas has been part of the team, and Melissa Carone. They're both running for State House in the Senate, both patriots, people that are on board, and they're going to get their time to speak as well. And Jonathan, by the way, you're speaking as well. I know, surprise, right? So they're all going to get an opportunity to tell you how they're doing and what they're going to be doing as part of this team. But again, I'm just going to go down this row real quick and just for a few minutes, just give each one of these guys a reason as why they're part of this team and why they believe this is so important. So we'll start with John, we'll end with Matt.
I look at the Federalist Papers as the reason why to the Constitution. The Constitution is the what. And to understand the what, you really need to understand the why. And in the first Federalist Paper, the first paragraph, I think is very important. It's very important for us to understand right now. Hamilton said, after an unequivocal experience of the inefficiency of the subsisting federal government, you are called upon to deliberate on a new Constitution for the United States of America. The subject speaks its own importance, comprehending in its consequences nothing less than the existence of the Union, the safety and welfare of the parts of which it is composed, the fate of the empire in many respects, the most interesting in the world. It has been frequently remarked that it seems to have been reserved to the people of this country, by their conduct and example, to decide the important question whether societies of men are really capable or not of establishing good government from reflection and choice, or whether they are forever destined to depend upon their political constitutions on accident and force. If there be any truth in the remark, the crisis at which we are arrived may with propriety be regarded as the era in which that decision is to be made, and a wrong election of the part we shall act may, in this view, deserve to be considered as the general misfortune of mankind. Where we're at right now, the era is now. They gave us a republic, and Franklin said, you have a republic if you can keep it. This is the era that we either keep or lose the republic. It's that serious. Please don't let it be that your children and grandchildren talk about that time that there used to be a country that was free.
John?
Well, how many people believe there was election fraud? Okay, so how many people here are happy with their government? Yeah, that's what I thought. What's kind of weird is I went down to a Young American for Liberty conference in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to other lawmakers in other states, and I was kind of intrigued with like what they make for money or what's important for them. Fraud wasn't important to people in Connecticut, so I thought that was kind of weird because I thought like everybody around the nation was concerned. So what I realized is it's actually 6 states that are concerned with this. I know 20 years ago it was 1 county. Now we're up to 6 states. How much further is this going to go? People in New Hampshire the state representatives in New Hampshire make $100 a year. Just to give you a comparison, ours makes $75,000 a year plus benefits and $250,000 for staff. So the money's getting out of control. We all know that state government's getting out of control. Everybody in this room knows it. We have to do something about it. And later on, after this is all over, I want to talk about what us chairs and grassroots can do to try to prevent some of that and kick back on some of that. So I'm the point of contact for a lot of you. A lot of you know who I am. So thank you for showing up, and thank you.
I'm Darren Wisely. I'm the Hillsdale County GOP chair, and I'm the attorney on this. I'm kind of in charge of drafting it. Mine's a lot smarter than mine that it's going up to in terms of substance, what to put in there. It's kind of like, if we were a law firm, I'd be the one kind of doing the doc review, but we got smart people here who know how to make this airtight, because that's what we're trying to do. The reason I'm involved with this is because, probably like a lot of you guys, I'm sick and tired of being just gaslit about, oh, this is conspiracy, you guys don't know what you're talking about, you're mad you lost. I mean, you guys tired of that or what? And it's time to get down to the bottom of it. It's time to organize. No one here is happy with our government. No one's here, and the Republicans are the worst part. Why? Because the Democrats tell you what they're going to do. They say, yeah, we're gonna be communists, okay. But the Republicans pretend to be on our side, and what do? Oh, we'll get them next year. Well, there's not going to be. If we don't fix it now, the next vote's not going to matter either, right? So that's why the grassroots have to organize, and Smith, he's done such a great job. I'm sure most of you guys know him. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. When the government fear the people, there's liberty. And we're the only ones willing to stand up and challenge that. So that's what I'm here for. Happy to answer any questions, listen to any suggestions. I thank you guys for coming out. And, as my hero Ron Paul said, an idea whose time has come cannot be stopped. So.
Thanks, Darren. And of course, Matt DePerno.
All right, Matt.
So, back in 2018, there was something called Proposal 3, which was a total disaster, if you know what that is. Essentially where we gave up all of our rights to communist fraud, right, when it comes to voting in this state. But there was also something else that happened in 2018.
Can't hear you.
Test. Okay. There was also something else that happened in 2018, which was a constitutional amendment. That constitutional amendment was quite simple, and it said if you're a voter in the state of Michigan, if you voted in the election, you have the right to audit the statewide election. Pretty simple, right? I think it says what it says. It's plain language. It also says within there that that is self-executing. What that means is you don't have to go and ask permission from anyone. You don't have to go to court. You don't have to ask your legislature. You don't have to ask a judge or anyone within the executive branch to execute on your right to audit the statewide election. And that's what we did in the Antrim County Bill Bailey case. We filed a lawsuit and said, here's the Constitution. It says that Bill Bailey has self-executing right to audit the statewide election. The defendant in the case was Jocelyn Benson. And Jocelyn Benson came in, and you got to understand this, the defendant in the case, right, came to the court and said, I, as the defendant in the case and the Secretary of State, I am going to define the word audit. And the judge said, well, Jocelyn Benson has said she's done 250 audits. She didn't do any audits, right? She actually, in October of 2020, she published a paper about what an audit looks like in the state of Michigan. It was 20-some pages and described everything that has to happen in an audit. And yet, when she went in court, she told the judge that an audit means that she might pull 4 ballots out of 2,000 in Berry County, and that would be an audit. Look at those 4 ballots, right? Do they look like ballots? Well, there you go. That's an audit. Did 250 of those across the state and claims this was the safest election in the history of the country. So we've tried that route. We're in the Court of Appeals now. What we've learned since December studying forensic images in Antrim County is quite revealing when it tells us actually how the election was subverted and the fraud that actually happened. The fraud was real. We've proved it in Antrim County, and you can extrapolate that across the state. So I agree with John. I mean, enough is enough. We got to take other action here, and this bill is that next step to get people moving on this and to get our legislature actually moving and to push this audit forward. Because if we sit around and wait, nothing else is going to happen. It's up to us.
Guys, real quick before we go, I just want to thank this team for what they were able to get together and how we were able to pull all of this together and get all of you guys together. This is not easy, but either was a revolution, either was a severance from King George. It was a decision made by a small group of people that needed to be done. And we had the republic that we used to have, and it's still there, but this is our moment. And it starts right here in this room with every single one of you. And what's going to happen tonight and how we reveal this is going to be a shocker to the world. Probably not the left. They probably think it's just going to be a thing. But it's going to be a shock to the state of Michigan and to the rest of the country, because the rest of the country is looking at Michigan and saying, what the hell is going on in Michigan? Why aren't you doing something? And we are. So guys, I just want to introduce you to the bill real quick that we've named is the DePerno Pulitzer Vote Act. Go ahead and write that down. DePerno-Pulitzer Vote Act.
I like that.
All right, and vote is an acronym, so I'll let you get that first. VOTE stands for Voting Operational Transparency Efficacy.
Can you repeat that?
Yep. Voting Operational Transparency Efficacy. Don't ask me to spell because I use spell check on here, so that's I'm not going to be your source for that, I promise you. You all get that down? Guys, what we have here is we have a group of grassroots individuals, and Melissa, Angela, these gentlemen over here, and people in this room that we've contacted and said, how do we get this done? How do we reach out to do something? Well, just a few weeks ago, Melissa's friend and Matt's friend, Jovan Politzer, had said, look, I've secured funding for this thing. Michigan, get your act together. Let's get something done. And I said, as we're sitting here walking, we were working on this bill, and we're like, man, we're scratching our heads going, this is going to be a long time. And all of a sudden we see this on Twitter, and I'm going, Melissa, give Jovan a call. Give him a call real quick and see what we can do. And we did, and through, in fact, this weekend I was up camping. I'm doing 2-hour Zoom calls in the campground, in the back room, in the lodge, just trying to get these things worked out and hashed out. And Jovan says, look, this is the way it's got to be. And talking with Matt's like, Jovan's on board, I'm on board, let's make this happen, let's make it airtight, let's make it waterproof. Let's go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And that's why we got two of the brightest minds when it comes to this fraud and coming to writing a bill to come on this. And this is why we honor them with this act, because that's going to take us to the next level. Guys, we don't have the bill presented for you tonight. We don't. I want to be clear with that. It is about what I would say about 90-95%. We are going through it. We are combing through. I'm not. These guys are. I'm not going to go through that. They're combing through it. They're making sure that everything is right. They're making sure that nothing can be construed as inefficient. They want to make sure, because this may be our only shot, they want to make sure this is done right. Talking to Jovan, Melissa, you can correct me, I believe we were talking, he says we should have a bill completely ready to go a week from today. Done. Finalized, cemented.
Submitted.
And then submitted to the Board of Canvassers. All right, so we will have that submitted in the next week. Board of Canvassers meet once a month on the, I think it's the third Tuesday. They're meeting tomorrow, so I can't, is that third Tuesday of every month? And they have 30 days, once that's submitted, to bring that back with a 100-word summary. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to come out with a nonpartisan 100-word summary of what this bill is. All right, we're opting to use them for this 100-word summary because, as we all know, Jocelyn Benson loves Republicans and doesn't like to get in our way at all, right? So she will do nothing at all to stop us. But we want to make sure that everything is done right. They offer, in the Board of Canvassers, they also offer us the opportunity to present a petition for just the technical side of the petition. So we can offer that to the Board of Canvassers. They'll look it over, they'll make sure everything's correct. We're going to be doing that as well once we have this 100-word summary. Guys, we're looking at launching this on October 1st with our first signatures. October 1st. In the next 30 days, what you're going to see is you're going to see a marketing storm. You're going to see online, you're going to see the full website, which it's under construction right now. You'll see the website, which will have the areas, the places, the times, the dates, where we'll be doing these petition circulators. We're going to be doing all of that in the next 30 days while we wait for the Board of Canvassers to come back to us and say, you're good to go. Once we have that, we will start the petition drive, and this is where you guys are going to be extremely valuable to us. In this next 30 days, this has to go out. We have to get people involved. They have to know that the people are standing up and making something happen. They have to know what happened in this room and what's been happening for the last year and a half is not going to be... I gotta choose my words carefully. I don't want to swear. I know I'm on live right now. It's not gonna. We're gonna undo everything that just happened. That's what we're trying to do. We're gonna find this fraud, and then we're gonna hold people accountable. That's extremely important, guys. But we need your help. We need your help. We're gonna be blasting this online. Terrence, Cindy, Kelly, Sabrina, we are going to need your logic. We're going to need Nick. We're going to need you guys to blast this online. It's got to go out to the grassroots. It's got to go to your county. It's got to go to your chairs, your districts. People have to know about this. And people are going to know about this. We have press that's waiting outside the door. They're not allowed in right now, but they're waiting outside the door because they've been called to get the information that we have here today. So it's going to be out there. Guys, this is real. We're not stopping. Somebody else is going to do this, and it's going to be us, the people. We are tired of watching this go down the tubes, and we're going to stand up and make sure something happens about it. Guys, funding, I know is people always ask these questions. I'm going to try and get a lot of this information out of the way so that people don't ask these questions. I know funding is, people always say, well, how are you going to fund this? This is an expensive endeavor, right? It's expensive to circulate these petitions. Obviously, the marketing is important, right? Marketing is key, so that's why I tell you guys we have to go out to our GOP chairs, we have to go to our district, we have to reach our grassroots, we have to reach our individuals. But funding is something of the reason why we brought Jovan in here. And Melissa, I think, can talk a little bit more about the funding than I can. So I'll give the microphone to her, and she'll give a little bit of an update. For those who don't know Melissa Crone, she's also running for state rep. Is it 59th? 33rd. 33rd state rep. Obviously, Melissa was very integral in seeing all this fraud happen and getting all of this information to us. So I appreciate her very much. If you want to tell us about the funding, Melissa.
Sure. Hi. So I know that you all know that, obviously we've been working very hard, and we've had a couple legislators come out and put out a bill, one in general, for a full forensic audit. This bill, as John said, is airtight. This bill follows Arizona exactly. This is the bill that everybody needs to support. I would not be telling people to support a bill unless I knew for a fact that this was the right bill. Now, the funding. Jovan Pulitzer has come out and said that, it is the kinematic artifact of the detection that he does, that is his technology that he has patented, is fully funded for the state of Michigan. Now, obviously, we're going to need other funding. Michigan has $20 million set aside for an audit in Michigan. They don't want to talk about that, but they do. Now, a lot of Arizona's full forensic audit was donations from the people. And this is probably what we are going to have to do in Michigan too. So mostly, if we can't get the state of Michigan to give us money for the full forensic audit, then, which I don't see why we wouldn't be able to, it will be in donations from the people, and then Jovan has the rest taken care of. So.
Thanks, Melissa. Real quick, again, you guys just heard from Melissa Crone. Okay. We do have a couple other supporting team members before we continue. I know you guys probably have a ton of questions. I'm trying to get through as much of the questions portion that you guys might have, but that's why we've got everybody up here, so you can ask those questions, ask us what's going on, ask us what the next steps are. So we're going to get right to that. But I do want to go ahead and give the microphone to a couple of our supporting guests. Jonathan Lindsay, who's running for State Senate, 16th District, will first speak. We'll have Angela Regas, who's running for 86th House Rep. She'll be also speaking, and then Melissa Crone. Again, just a few minutes, guys. These are guys that have been involved in this process with helping us on the back end and doing some things that we don't necessarily see on the front end, but they've really been pivotal for us, and that's what it's going to take to get this through. And so we need these people, and we need you guys. You're now part of our supporting cast. So I appreciate it. Jonathan, if you want to talk a little bit.
Yeah, you're going to regret that, John. But let's make sure, I am running for Senate, but it's in Mike Shirkey's district, so would anybody rather keep Mike Shirkey? Look, I don't want to distract from what you're doing here. This sounds fantastic. I want to remind the audience of something else, which is that no matter how much transparency or how much clarity we're able to bring to the 2020 election results, the bottom line is that Joe Biden is in the White House right now, because Republicans in our legislature sent him there and in other states. In December, the right thing to do, this goes back to why do we have the electors in the first place, go back to what John was talking about, read some of the Federalist Papers, specifically 68, learn about why we have the electors and the power that the Constitution gives to the state legislators to determine the manner in which we choose our electors. The right thing to do in December, with all the information that was on the table then, and it may have been imperfect, but it was to send electors for Donald Trump to elect him in January to be counted. So I want to point out too that when you're thinking about your state legislators, make sure in this next round, this is super important. We'll get back to this, but make sure this next round that this is one of the things you're doing to vet them, is understand that we can have the best laws on the books, and if fraud happens and we don't have people there that are willing to throw down and say, no, this is not okay, we call foul, it still won't matter, right? So we need senators, we need representatives in Michigan that would be willing to stand up if we have another round of fraud. And I promise that I'll do that. Check out weneedawarrior.com.
Awesome. Veteran right there, guys. Afghanistan is quite a mess right now for everybody who's been paying attention. So thank you for your service, sir. Appreciate you.
You too.
Thank you very much. Angela Regas, she's running for 86th district. That is Kent County. Kent, yeah, okay, so right around there. Give the floor to her for a couple minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. In my candidacy, really doesn't matter right now, does it? Because without the full forensic audit, we have no future elections. It's that simple. It's a black and white issue. We know there was fraud. I was outside the TCF Center the day after the election, and what we saw was alarming. People were coming out telling us, like Patrick Kolbeck was telling us, you know, some of the things that were going on inside, and we were under the assumption that everything would be okay. How could this actually happen? It not only happened, but it was covered up by both sides. Where has our leadership in our state been this last year? Where's the courage? We have a courage problem in this state and in this country right now. We have people unwilling to stand up for what's right, and that's why we're here today. And I look out in the crowd and I think how wonderful this is that that we're meeting tonight. It kind of takes me back to, you know, the Sons of Liberty, and I wish this place was called the Green Dragon, right? Yeah. Because this is where we're at. We're headed towards a revolution, and we are not going to surrender our republic. You know, they talk about this is a democracy. This is a democracy. And I just want to say, shut your mouth. We don't have a democracy. This is a republic. Democracy is mob rule. And that's what they're trying to condition us to believe right now. And we're not doing it. We're not doing it.
They're doing it.
They're doing it. We're done with it. We're going to hold the line right now with this. We're going to get this audit. We're going to uncertify the state of Michigan. And we're going to take back the republic. We've had enough. Enough is enough. There is no more. We're holding the line with our state, and the rest of the states will fall because the world is watching us. So, thank you.
Melissa?
Yeah, so my campaign has kind of been put on hold as well. You know, it's kind of hard to run a campaign and keep up with, you know, with all this, making sure that we get a full forensic audit, making sure that it is done correctly, making sure that we are supporting the bill that is going to find the fraud, making sure we have a bill that is going to find the fraud. You know, making sure that people understand the bill. You know, making sure that people understand what happened here in Michigan. You know, just making sure that the bill is airtight, like they've been saying. You know, this is finally being done. You know, I'm very excited for this. I've been waiting for this. You know, I've been trying my hardest to get Jovan into Michigan, working with someone. And finally, we got Darren to work with him. Thank you. I appreciate it so much because we really needed him. You know, he's a great person. He's very educated on all this, and he is going to actually be speaking here soon. Yeah. So everybody can hear what he has to say. It's very interesting the way he goes through this. So, yeah, my website is votecaron.com for my campaign, if you guys want to write that down. I also brought palm cards. I'll pass them out at the end. I have business cards on me. If you would like one, come up to me. But yes, I am running for state rep in District 33.
Woo!
Senior citizen card.
Will we donate to you, Angela? Oh, yes. Thank you. Angela4mi.com. And then I have a WinRed account too. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for this stuff. I was just focusing on the election stuff tonight. But I do have cards with me. If anybody would like a business card, it has all my contact information and the website information as well. Okay, thank you.
So, sorry that all the chairs aren't here tonight. I sent out over 200 emails to chairs and officers because I know that some chairs bottleneck that information. They don't tell their officers of stuff like this. So there's officers like here in Jackson, it's 50-50 with establishment and conservative, if you will. And sometimes that information gets bottlenecked. I just wanted to be honest with everybody. So a lot of my emails went to spam, and I just found out a few days ago, and I started making the calls, and the way the contacts list is goes from A down, and I think I'm in the J's now that I'm thinking about it. So, but we do have a lot of chairs here, and it's our job as chairs or as GOP to figure out creative ways to get these signatures. We're talking about 500,000 signatures, guys. That's no joke.
How much time do you have?
We're looking at before May. We're looking at actually in March. It's 6 months.
6 months time?
So you're looking at 6 months, because this is through winter. Nobody likes to do signatures through winter. So we're looking at the idea of getting these signatures this fall. We got to get them as fast as possible as we can. So we're looking at October. We better get majority of that before November, before Thanksgiving, because it's going to be dead in December and January. I guarantee it. We're going to poop out on it. So we got to get as many signatures as possible. Now it's our job too is to be creative as possible to get finance. Yeah, we're promised money and various different things, but we need to get support for that. So it's going to be us GOP and grassroots leaders to figure out creative ways. I was thinking of some ideas with like new text programs. We could text our communities to have locations to come to this location on Tuesday night. There's just all kinds of programs. I say that we start organizing that now, ASAP. So, and I'll stay up to date with what I'm doing. And I suggest that if you guys got any ideas, to make sure to contact me as well, so we can do it down in Hillsdale as well. So, I just want to say again, thank you.
All right, we're going to start the question section here real quick, but I just want to go ahead and make sure everybody knows for full disclosure. Right, I love transparency. Transparency is important. I also am running for Congress in Michigan's 6th district against Fred Upton. So, but that's transparency. I just want you guys to know that. But right now, this focus is this: we need to get this done, and we need to push this as hard as we possibly can. All right. So I need all of your helps and everybody's reach to reach where we got to go to make sure this gets done. All right, we have about 20 minutes before Jovan. Jovan's coming at 7:30, correct, Melissa? Yep. 7:30. So he's going to come on the screen. He's going to present some stuff for about 30 minutes. So you'll be able to see it. Should be fed through the speaker, I believe. So you'll be able to hear that, and then we'll get closing remarks and everything else. But I want to make sure that we get questions. So if you have questions, and just go ahead and direct them so people know here.
Before we start details, can you just give us an overview of this process? They're doing the bill. I know we're getting signatures, but then give overview. What happens? Just overview.
Sure.
5, 6, 7, 8 steps.
Sure. Okay. So the obviously process is writing the bill, and then we submit that 100-word summary to the Board of Canvassers. Right? They come back and they say, "Hey, you're good to go." Now we are collecting signatures. We're going everywhere. We're collecting the signatures. We collect them all. 500,000. The number that you need to get is 340,047. That's the exact number you need to get. We want to hit the 500 plus mark. I mean, if we can hit 1 million, fantastic. We need to hit the signatures. Once we've collected all those signatures, we will submit them back to the Board of Canvassers, where they'll do a process of determining based off of percentages how many are legitimate and how many are not. Once they've determined that, they will then, and according to the language, it's immediately, they will determine this. I think we've figured out that's not exactly how they play this game, but immediately they'll determine this. once they have determined that we have 340,047 valid signatures, at this point, it's approved by the Board of Canvassers. They have to approve it, submission, and then it goes to the House for a vote. House and the Senate for a vote. And then from there, it's veto proof. They have 40 days, 40 legislative days to enact it. From there, and then it becomes law. So that's kind of the very, very general overview of how that transitions and works. So, John.
Not a
And then
question,
understand.
just a statement. Rather, just be careful who you're going to be taking investments from. Does Mike Shirkey ring a bell with Unlock Michigan? Don't let it repeat, because it'll make or break you. Everybody will be watching your finances.
We don't plan on using stand-up as the tool to get the signatures.
Okay.
We will be taking finances from people. I don't know if
They're non-disclosed.
yeah, they're non-disclosed money. So like we will be taking it on. We got a target goal on a high end. On a low end, we're looking at 500,000, but on a high end, we're looking at 3 million. So it depends on how frugal we could be here and how fast we get this going. Really, it is. I really do think that we're somewhere in between, and so our targeted goal should be taking on finances at least $1 million, I would assume. And so when we're talking to media as leaders, we should be asking for that. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of the money's going to come from outside of Michigan as well. So I do want everybody to think about that when they're talking to media.
I just wanted to add, it's not that they're non-disclosed for any other reason than to hold, just to keep people's privacy, because there has been issues in Arizona where people have donated money and then they have gotten harassed, or people have found them. So that is the only reason why. That is the only reason why.
Cindy, you had a question.
So what if the legislators voted down?
Okay, so good question. What happens if the legislators vote it down? If it gets voted down, it then becomes a ballot initiative. It goes onto the ballot to vote on. Obviously, we want to skip that process because now you're opening it up to everybody in the state of Michigan to vote on this bill, right? That's why it's so extremely hard. So this is something that I wanted to touch on. People have asked, how are we going to get this through with a legislature that doesn't want to move? And how do you fight fire? You fight it with fire. And one thing that they love more than anything else is themselves. And they love their money and they love their position. And guess what's happening next year? An election. And now you have a bill, Representative Steve Carr put a bill together. Right? And he put that bill together and they're looking at this bill and they're going, okay, we've got a bill, but we're not going to do anything. They've already said that. Now they're trying to get support for that bill. They're trying to get it, but it's tough because nobody wants to move on it. It's a lot easier to move when you have 500,000 people saying, I'm not supporting you, I will support the other guy, you better sign this and you're not going to get a dime of my money until you do. And every single one of those guys wants that spot, right? And if they don't, that's where they primary them. So that's kind of the goal on that, right? So, yep, join or die, right? That's what they said. That was the motto. That's going to be live. That's going to be live. So that's great.
Sorry.
So that's how that works, right? And that's how you persuade them. You call them up. You get them up there and say, "Hey, we've got this drive." And all of a sudden, you start seeing legislators seeing 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 signatures. They're going to have to support it, and if they don't, well, they might as well kiss it goodbye, right? Now we know the Democrats will vote no against it. They're in safe positions. So we have to be able to go ahead and reach out to those legislators and say, this is a real deal. You better get behind it, and now's the time to start trucking. I'll get him real quick, Terrence, because he had a question. Yeah.
You said that you had some contacts with Arizona, and I was wondering what things did you learn to do and what not to do?
So that's a great question for Jovan, because he's been instrumental in that and really making sure that the to-dos are in there and the not to-dos, the pitfalls that they have. I'm not so involved with that. That'd be more Darren, Matt, and Jovan when they're looking at that. But there have been. We've talked about some of the things that they did right, some of the things they did great, and some of the things that could be tweaked upon to make it better. And especially with Michigan, obviously being two separate states, there's some things we need to juggle around there. That's why, unfortunately, we don't have the bill present for you today, because we want to make sure that it's all done correctly. So that's more of a question for Jovan, unless, yeah.
And this isn't exclusive to Michigan. This is actually going on in other states. So like Jovan was presenting this yesterday with Washington State. So it's the same concept that we're taking around the nation and other states are picking up. So it's kind of like a domino effect, if you will. So I just wanted to include that so people knew what was going on.
What I really like about this bill is when I described to you earlier what our Constitution says, when it says every voter is entitled to audit the statewide elections, we got put up to the Court of Appeals to define the term audit. The constitutional amendment also from 2018 states that the legislature shall not limit the rights as defined in that constitutional amendment, but certainly they could expand on it. And this bill entirely defines the term forensic audit, so there'd be no question anymore and the Secretary of State couldn't be able to step in and block a citizen's constitutional right to an audit, because this bill would literally define exactly every step. And there are many steps that we put in here, many steps actually, and even more manys than that, to define exactly what has to happen, all the way from the poll books to the tabulators to the election management system, to the ballots, to modem connections. I think we've been quite comprehensive so far, and maybe more will be added as we think about it, but certainly it is a comprehensive list to define the term audit.
So, yeah, you go ahead, Nick.
Can we ask about like the bill structure, what's in it, or how you? I'd like to know the trustee relationship. Does it? Is there a board? Is it who performs the audit? Is it through the Auditor General's office?
Thank you. Thanks for your question. So the VOTE Act actually sets up a vote committee. So that's going to be separate from government, because those are the same people who, the same Ferengis who just screwed up the whole thing up there. So that's what that's going to set up. Now, they have options to choose their own people, and it's defined in there, obviously. And then if they don't do that, they're given a time period. If they say, oh, you know what, we're just going to not fill it so that you guys can never go through with your full forensic audit, that's where we get to choose someone to go in there. So this way they can't just kind of get out of it that way.
So you said the people. Who are those people?
Yeah, that's something I think we're still working on in the bill.
That's a really tough part.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point, is because we have to narrow it down word by word by word, because just like he said, they can take audit to mean something different. They can say who's up there to mean something different. So we have to figure out every which way, it's playing defense. Every which way they can twist it to mean something else, or they can stall it, because they're going to run the clock. They're going to hold the ball there and wait for the clock to run out. So that's what this is about, and that's why it's got to be so airtight.
And then, so you said it's all the petition's privately funded, the audit's going to be publicly funded.
That's what the money's allocated for, but we'll raise money just in case, because again, we don't know what problems the state will raise for us.
I've heard that number thrown around. That's an erroneous number.
Yeah. The 20 million figure.
Yeah, but I think it's entirely doable to have the state fund it way.
Yeah, sure. Well, they should. I mean, they're the ones who screwed it up.
But another part that I have ran into a couple times is not get into the Office of Technology Management and Budget, because they can start, terms of the whole audit bad, so I was wondering, the process of how you were funding it, the actual audit. And then another thing that...
Wait, do you want me to answer that? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the question again?
So, is it publicly funded, the audit, and you said privately funded?
Right. I mean, if what you said, if I understood it correctly, the state has the money set aside. Whether that's erroneous or not, I don't know. But then that's where we'll secure public funding to cover whatever that gap is. Is that right, John? So.
Okay. And I'm no expert on that, but then have you thought the Office of Budget Office?
Mm-hmm.
I'm fairly certain the bill gets stuck there and it goes ways you don't want it to. Do you have any insight as to what you figured out for that process, or is it because you are still working?
Yeah, it's just kind of a vague question. So when you say ways we don't want it to.
Okay. I mean, I wish I had the words, but you're going to have to try to miss the budget office.
Right.
They're going to stop. They're going to stop.
Yeah, and that's why we go into so much detail for any ways they can run the clock out, they can stall it, they can redefine words. I mean, that's what they do. They're professional manipulators. So.
Carrie's over here. I'm gonna get Carrie real quick.
Melinda.
Carrie was Melinda. Okay. Melinda. Yeah, and then we got to move on because we got
Ladies first.
Ladies first. Melinda.
Okay, so going back to what Mr. DePerno just said before his question regarding the language and verbiage for the petition, in articulating and defining what forensic audit would mean, are you including measures for technology of future use on what it may change? Like right now we have a set of systems that's here now. What about in the future as technology advances? How are you going to cover what a forensic audit, I mean, the machines, the software, the hardware we have now will be different in 20 years, 50 years from now. So how is that going to be articulated in the verbiage to have that coverage as well? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
No, there's nothing that's going to be in that for the future like that. Yeah, this is only going to cover the audit of what we just witnessed. This isn't nothing for the future of that.
Okay.
It does set forth, though, at the bottom a precedent. So for a future audit of this way. So this isn't changing how the voting's done. This is just the audit process. But what this does do in terms of the future is sets forth, hey, if we ever have problems like this again, this is the exact process. So it sets that precedent.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that language is in there? That's
Yes.
fine.
Yes. I guess I'll go ahead. If I don't know, I'll just wait for him.
Is this focused around, mainly around the machines, or is this also going to delve into signature verification?
This is the whole 9 yards. It's not really about machines. It's about software. It's about chain of custody, how things were folded, because and he'll.
Process.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this is not just taking one little piece. This is the 1,000-foot view.
Congressman how do you say it? Bentivolio? Is that how you do it? All right, perfect.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Question: in regards to choosing the auditors to do a forensic audit in the future, you said you haven't really figured that out yet. Is that correct? Real quick.
No, I think what we were talking about earlier was the committee.
Right.
We're working on the structure of the committee, but the bill describes three types of auditors that would be selected to run the audit, all focusing on different components of what actually makes up an audit.
Okay. Next, I appreciate it. So the committee is what you haven't really decided on how to choose a committee, correct?
We have a draft of how we would choose a committee.
Okay.
And whether or not we add to that or subtract or change that or modify is what we're currently discussing.
So can I ask, in your brainstorming sessions discussing how to set up and choose the members of this committee, can you give me some idea of some of the things discussed?
Well, for instance, the committee would be made up of some Democrats and some Republicans chosen by the Speaker of the House, I think, in one instance, the minority leader of the House. The Senate Majority Leader would pick a committee member. The Senate Minority Leader would pick a committee member. Those are ideas we've discussed. We haven't settled on those yet. And then there are other, I would say, sort of at-large committee members that we've discussed as well. And we're not, at this point, married to those ideas, but it's a discussion that we've had in terms of how we actually select those committee members. Perhaps you have good ideas in terms of doing that.
Thank you for asking.
Whether we could, I don't know if we could put your name in there directly.
No, well,
but you may have some ideas.
well, I like the idea of you being the future Attorney General. I'm a big fan. So,
And go to DiPerno4mi.com.
yeah.
You know, volunteer, donate. I don't want to shift the focus of this at all, but listen, we need money and we need donations. DiPerno for Michigan, any way you want to do it. The number 4 or the word FOR, you'll still get there. Thanks.
So I also have a good friend who's just submitted his name as the Attorney General. He went to Country Day and he's a state legislator. So
You can tell him
I'm going to put him in his place. But I love the guy. He's a nice guy. But I'm supporting, Matt. Yeah, thanks. So, but here's my suggestion. Because what you've stated as part of this committee just tells me that we're going to have a continuing way of the government controlling the people's votes. So my suggestion would be a couple things. Number one is I'd like a receipt with a number, like I get at the grocery store for buying my product, and who I voted for. We can talk in more detail how that would work, because now you can't, even if the machines are manipulated some way, we have receipts, right? The other thing is, I was thinking, why not just go to the Democrats and the Republicans and ask them to draw names of all the delegates that are in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and who's maybe been a delegate for 2 terms or 4 years, and draw their names from a hat. And if they decline, you draw another name. So if you need 4 people on the committee that are Republicans and 4 Democrats, maybe one Libertarian or 1 Independent, you could somehow get some of these folks out here, and if they need advice, they can go to Melissa, who is very knowledgeable on how the system works, or ask you for advice. This way, it tells me that it's really a people thing, and I'd like to keep as much out of the government as I can. I've been there, and well, we're writing a book about it. But anyway.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot, and that's kind of when I'm going through. And I know he asked back there, and I think that's one of the toughest parts, like you said, because you can't have government checking government, right? I mean, that'd be like if you and I were in a lawsuit and my grandma was the judge, right? How's that going to go? So one idea that kind of just came to mind as you were talking is maybe having county chairs involved in selecting that, because
no. You would not want my county chair.
but overall, I'm saying in the vote we have the grassroots. I think that would give the grassroots a chance. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
Again, we're spitballing here. But I like your idea too. I want to have an idea where the grassroots can control. I'm not sure how we do that, but
yeah, just to draw the names, and if the person declines, you disqualify the person.
Yeah.
Pick another one until you get 4 or whatever you need.
Gerrymandering.
Yeah.
We brought that about. It was supposed to be fair for the people who were going to do it, and we all know that stinks of government intrusion.
yeah. So yeah, we're open to ideas on that. Obviously, short on time, but anything where we can give the people the chance to say, and not the Mike Shirkies of the world, we're going to be better off. So however we can do that, that's what we want.
Yeah, I don't want Mike Shirkey picking who's going to audit.
Yeah, we don't either.
All right, guys, we're going to go out and hold off the questions. We'll go ahead and get right back to it, but Jovan is ready to go. He's on the screen. He's going to talk to you guys. I want to make sure that we're kind of to know his time. He's a very busy guy. So, Melissa, if you want to go ahead and get him on and then introduce him.
What? Good point. Yeah. I work for Pete Spring. That's why I'm not there anymore. Right.
So while we wait,
Mine says
while we wait,
was a fraud.
who wants to talk about Dana Nessel?
What happened? How we got elected?
Yes, here.
But it wasn't
I'd
me
like to
doing
know
it.
why Dana
They
Nessel
caught the
doesn't
guy.
follow the U.S. Constitution, which is the law of the land, and she doesn't, and she's neglecting her job duties in not doing an investigation on Benson for all of the things that they found in those court cases, which found that she removed voters from the archived voter rolls and added them to the active voter rolls before the election, and then the judge ordered her to remove 177,000 people from the active rolls back to the archive.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, why is she not following the Constitution? Because she doesn't believe in it. She's a Marxist, 100% straight up a Marxist militant. And I would say she's worse than the governor and Secretary of State Benson in that regard. They all fall in line in some degree to some level of Marxism, but Dana Nessel is a militant. You know, is anyone familiar with Secretary of State Benson's husband, Ryan Fredericks? One person. I'll give you a little story about him. Back in 2015, Benson's husband worked for Mike Dugan's office in the city of Detroit. And he was put in charge of a nonprofit called Meet Your Date. And the entire program was defined around the process of how do we help minorities meet their date, pregnant women. How do we help minority pregnant women meet their date? Because there's an 18% higher chance of minorities having premature babies. So this was, Ryan Fredericks was put in charge of this program, and he was actually ended up diverting money from the coffers within the city of Detroit, doing it on city time, so that's illegal. And it became quite a controversy because they were diverting money from the city coffers and using government time to raise money for this nonprofit. Well, Meet Your Date, we know how these liberal charities work, right? They always come up with these acronyms of, you know, things that sound good, but what's the best way to help minorities lower their percentage of premature babies? What's a surefire way of making sure they don't have babies, right? So Meet Your Date was actually a Planned Parenthood operation. When this was discovered that Ryan Fredericks was diverting money from the city, there was an investigation done, and he then intentionally deleted hundreds of emails that described this program and how they diverted money. Dana Nessel then issued a subpoena to the city of Detroit for these emails, and then gave Ryan Fredericks immunity to testify about his role, and because he was the only person really involved, there was no one else to prosecute. So Dana Nessel came up with the idea that they should then send the rest of these government employees to a program called document management. So that's what actually happened, and that investigation was entirely stalled by Dana Nessel, and no prosecutions were ever brought forward on what essentially was, in my opinion, a process of eugenics, really, that dates back to Margaret Sanger in the early 1950s, in terms of promoting abortions for minorities. That's your Secretary of State and her husband. It's quite sick when you think of it. And Dana Nessel failing to prosecute. So, are we ready? I could talk about this for much longer if you don't want to listen to Jovan. But thanks a lot.
Okay, so
Let's introduce Jovan real quick.
let's put the time filler either there. So Jovan is behind the full forensic audit in Arizona, and he is the inventor of kinematic artifact detection, and he is with us tonight to tell us a little bit about that and a full forensic audit here in Michigan. Thank you. Jovan, we have you on a TV.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hey folks, how's it going? I am just going to be getting some videos for you. I'm going to be sharing a few educational pieces with you to discuss these, what should be done in ballots and detections, etc. And but first I want to kind of give you an overview, if I can, that would, as this downloads on my computer, that will help everybody understand where I come from. And so, Melissa, if you would, I'll need screen share as I'm doing this. And let me take a look at the room. Let me see who's there.
Yep, I was going to do that. Let me put you on screen share.
Great. Yeah, just send me screen share and that'll be great. I don't want y'all to have to look at my magnificent real estate space on my forehead. I know, they don't have filters to make me look thinner and younger with less forehead or with more hair, but I'll cover a lot of it up with videos as you share here. Did you find it?
Yep, I made you the host. Is that what you wanted?
That's it. Let me see the room. Let me see who I'm talking to, just so I know folks who I'm talking to.
Let me just close this out real quick.
Beautiful.
Wait a second, sorry. Okay.
Beautiful. Oh, look at that. Hey, folks. How's it going?
Hey.
Nice to meet you. Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. I'm joining you from my secret bat lair where I don't tell anybody where I hide out, so you'll have to accept that with me. I'm going to show you some videos that will help you understand what I do. But here's the very first important thing so you understand what I talk about and why I do what I do. When you look at the lawsuits or claim across America that have not made any headway, there's some common themes to it in the courts. And that is the word fraud being mentioned, the words stop the steal being mentioned, and of course words that have to do with, well, we're going to recount the votes. I want you to understand the way these audits go forward, just like we've been able to do in Arizona, and just like the one we're about to get started in Georgia. Everything has to do with election integrity under one aspect, and it's called equal protection under the law. See, when you look at equal protection under the law, you have to understand when a precinct does something completely different than another precinct, or they don't hold the same standards. That is the definition of denying somebody's equal protection under the law. That is a civil rights issue and not an election issue. And it's very, very important to understand that, because that's how we made headway for us to be able to do the Arizona audit, which I'll talk about, and it's what made our headway and gave us precedent to get it done in Georgia. Now, your state is completely different because you have some incredible rights that will allow this. But first, here's where I want to start. I want you to understand my background first. Please don't let looking at me confuse you. And what I mean by that is, you have to understand, I'm a nerd hiding out in a biker's body. So don't let that throw you, right? Because God gave me a face that makes it look more like I want to beat you up than I want to teach you, but that's just what he stuck me with. So let me show you a few things that let's see, let me get to my filter show. I want to play a video for you. You may have to turn it up a little bit on your side. But I want to share with you, first thing is you need to understand how I look at these things and my background. Because most of you interact with me almost every single day, many times a day. You just don't know it's this nerd hiding out in a biker's body. Here we go.
Great ideas are brought to life by great thinkers. One such thinker, Jovan Pulitzer, has contributed over 500 patents to our technological world. The United States Patent Office shows that as many as 40 new inventions have stemmed from each of his pioneering patents. Today, built upon his incredible success, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer innovates in the areas of virtual and augmented reality, data analytics and global data platforms, nanoanalytics, healthcare systems, mobile streaming and communications, as well as monetization technologies. Some of his groundbreaking innovations are right in front of you every single day. A barcode has long been just a bunch of lines on the bottom of a box of cereal. But today, every product, article of commerce, and even people have a unique identifiable code. Everything in the world has become interconnected, and like magic, we can use our device's camera to read barcodes and unique QR codes. A now ubiquitous technology that Jovan ideated and patented. For a long time, software was purchased on floppy disks and CDs, and it was a hassle when there was an update to install. Today's devices know when there is an update available, and then automatically take care of that behind the scenes for us. Another one of Jovan's patents that we take for granted every day. Several years ago, viewing the same website from a computer to a laptop to a mobile device always seemed to make it look wonky and broken. Thanks to one of Jovan's patented ideas, websites fit perfectly to the screen you're looking at. That's what we call responsive design. We all remember when taking a toll road meant digging around your car for loose change to pay the attendant. What a traffic jam. These days, manned toll booths are a rarity. A tag in our vehicles linked to our credit card automates the payment process. Our inventor Jovan Pulitzer innovated the device that lives in your car and the system to capture and process that message.
Okay, so that's just a brief background on my techno stuff. I promise I won't get very technical here. This is just a pretty easy explanation. But I want to help you understand why I even understand this to begin with, why Arizona Audit is using my process. When you see all the cameras and the colors and the team or how it's done, you're actually watching my technology in action, and why we're doing that in Arizona as well. A few things you need to understand is election laws have never been changed when it comes to finding things done electronically, whether it's switching votes, whether it's the machines not working right, whatever the case may be. And you have to make a very hard judgment call as the citizens in your state to decide, are you doing this just to get some answers? Or are you doing it to make sure it never happens again? And that is what's key. And that's why I'm really hardly defined on what does election integrity mean. Because we've had software glitches, changing votes, or things going wrong since the very first case was tried in 1970 in Broward County, Florida. And they have never changed anything because of it. Why? Because they can say computers have glitches. It's a bug. We just accept that as an excuse, but we change nothing. So where I come from is to make sure things are changed so this never happens again, because there are so many holes in the process that I believe our votes are for sale to the highest bidder and knows how to do nefarious things with them. And unless we understand what they are, we can't shut them down. So from my background standpoint, if you understand the reason why you can use your phone today, sitting right there, use your camera, look at any barcode, QR code, any code there is, and pull up information, that's me. I have 207 patents in that category alone of how does machine readable codes, when printed on paper, interact with a machine to find information, look up information, adjudicate information, retrieve information, or tally information. Sounds pretty familiar, right? You're actually talking about how a ballot is marked, how a ballot runs through a machine, and in fact, how these ballots are tallied. All of these voting companies are subject to my patents. So I understand this for 26 years, what makes these things work and how they can break. Then in the last 6 years, I've been working on the nanomolecular digital identification of disease. Very fancy word for when a woman basically palpitates and finds a little pea size in her breast, and all of a sudden, if she goes to the doctor soon enough, he finds it, says it's cancer, you start dealing with it. When did you get cancer? When it became a pea size? No, you got cancer the moment that first cell mutated. And as soon as that happens in your body starts throwing off signals. And so I literally work in the field of identifying it faster. In the near future, your phone will do it. How it will do it is this little case on your phone basically monitors your sweat as it's in your hand and tells you if anything's brewing and constantly reports to you. So I understand how these devices and things work. So let me walk you through a few things. I'm going to put one up on my screen here, and I'm going to show you some of the things we do. And you might have seen some of this in the Arizona audit when the first early preliminary was done. Here's the deal. Software can do nefarious things. Software can also activate when a certain number is hit, do nefarious things, and then totally disappear. Software can eat itself. So although I know these things happen on machines, I don't focus on the machines. If you think everything can be found in machines and voter rolls and tape tallies and poll books or whatever, I'm telling you, it cannot, because it can hide itself very easy. So what I work exclusively in is making sure we go to the most important document of all, and that's the physical ballot. Our country was founded on the single most important paper document ever created. That's called our Declaration of Independence. I'll be damned if I'm going to let our country fail over something as simple as a ballot. So I'm going to, bless you, I'm going to share my machine, and I want to show you some of the things I look for. I'm going to walk you through them. Even though politicians are easily, and I want to stress this point, politicians are out there using the term now, forensic audits. Forensic audit's fine, but do they want to do a full forensic audit? Now there's two full forensic audits. There's FULL and there's FOOL. They want to fool you that they're going to do a forensic audit. And if you don't take the steps to absolutely know what's in your ballots, you're being taken for a ride. And I'm telling you right now, I have talked to lawmakers, I've done House intelligence debriefings and the whole bit. I see politicians now hopping into this like we're the new boy band and they're going to go right to the top on American Idol. And they will say forensic audit or full forensic all day long and have no idea what they're talking about. In your state, I talked to one freshman lawmaker for a whopping 16 minutes and never got to show him the technology because he wanted to convince me he knew audits. And when I finally nailed him on it after he told me he knew 6 times, I found out he never did it. Never done one, never participated in one. And he put forth a bill that has junk in it that will not help your state fix what it is. And I actually had a 2.5 hour discussion with McBroom. Now that's a pretty long discussion with a lawmaker. It was a pretty futile discussion with a lawmaker, right? Because he's the one that put out a report. There was no evidence of nefarious activities. In fact, in his report, he was listed in your state. He actually quoted me in Arizona that was nothing, it was bull crap, and it was whatever. And I said, well, you didn't call me. Why didn't you call me and look at my reports? Who did he call to try to find out information? Secretary of State of Georgia, the very people that could go to jail for doing what they're doing. And that's who he decides to ask. I wouldn't call him a Republican. That's my own opinion. Y'all don't have to agree. Y'all might love him completely. But the bottom line is, it didn't matter what I showed or said. His only thing was, well, you got to show me legal proof first, and then we'll do an audit. So you got to understand how these audits work. So I'm going to show you what we look for in the paperwork, because the paperwork holds the secret. So here we go, let's get started. Boom. Okay, so this is the little marker on your ballot. You would probably never notice it because it's about the size of an eyeball on a nickel. And it's printed on two sides of the paper, the front and the back. And here's what our systems do. We look for this out of alignment. You know, these ballots are supposed to be printed in perfect calibration. Perfect calibration is like this one on the left here. If you're a deer hunter, and by the way, I love your state, I'm a Texas boy. And I thought we were the deer hunting state. Right? I would have bragged and bragged and bragged about Texas hunting. I'm telling you, if it moved, I shot it when I was a kid. And then I had to literally drive something to Flint, Michigan, from Texas. I have never seen so many deer in my life that look like cows, ever. Because y'all make them fat and big, right? And so I am very envious of your hunting in Michigan. Y'all got it going on, and you can grow fruit trees, right? I love that. But let me go back to this, because I need to share it with you in a hunting analogy, because you'll understand it. If this photo on the left was your scope, that means the round one with the bars sticking out, that's your scope on your rifle, right? And that little target in the center is putting it right behind the sweet spot in the shoulder, right, of your big buck. You know exactly what I'm talking about. When you pull that trigger, that buck's just going to drop in its tracks, period, if you catch it mid-breath. If you're a hunter, you know what I'm talking about. Now, over here on this particular ballot has a heading of west, that's a heading, west, and it's 1,600% out of calibration. That means when you were hunting that deer, you shot your neighbor 3 miles away to the left, not the deer, okay? And so the same thing works in printing here, that they're supposed to be dead on. And by the way, they have rules that if they're not dead on, they're supposed to be destroyed. Let's keep on looking at this. And so our systems look for this, because elections are a lot about compliance. You got to do it right. If you don't do it right, then you can actually make somebody's vote not count. And by the way, if these things aren't done right, your vote could not count. But there's other nefarious reasons these things are done. Here's how we put out this report. Let me tell you how to read it. You saw this in Arizona, but this is a sample one ballot bag. In Arizona, we ran this report 16,750 times, because there are 1,675 ballot boxes, and inside are 10 ballot bags. So this little round thing you see on the left is like a compass, right? You got north, south, east, west. You've got north by northwest, south by southwest. You understand what it is. And you got the bullseye in the center. Well, here's how we read these things. In this particular iteration of the bag, 11% of these ballots didn't even have the mark they're supposed to have. 1% of the ballots, in fact, it's so small I didn't even register it. 1% of the ballot was exactly in calibration. And I want you to understand something very important. We were very generous. You're only supposed to be out of calibration 0.5%. 1%, calibration's on. If you're 1 micron move, that's called 100% out of calibration. We gave a 300% lenience. 300%. And these machines still couldn't hit it. The yellow is when, hey, this machine's getting kind of wonky, you got to service it. 7 here, right here, means you have to take this machine out of service because it's not working right. The 78% percentile basically says these ballots cannot be read right, no matter what, because they're printed wrong and the machines aren't going to read them right. And so when you look at these and you look at these numbers, you see what happens. The highest out of calibration was 3,900%. If you were a machinist or a cashier and you were off that bad, number one, you'd be fired. If you were a cashier, you'd be in jail. The average is 1,610%. Let's proceed forward so you can understand why this matters. Number one, it can make your ballot not read. You can't tell this handling the ballot. People can't sit there and look at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 million ballots and see this. You can't do it in an audit. It's impossible. You have to look through the paper because it's printed on 2 sides and they both work in unison. Well, here's what happens when you literally, now this is important because the media told you, Sharpie-gate, Sharpie-gate, Sharpies don't create anything. I'm going to show you Sharpie-gate. You make your own decision. I know a lot of people have provided affidavits that where they mark their ballots, they actually use Sharpie, and they were told. I called it the traffic cop hack of, hey, you know, are you a Republican or whatever, and handed you a marker. I want to show you how that particular rig works. What you're looking at here on the left is a presidential oval. Voted. Now, I'm not going to tell you where this is on the ballot, but if you can guess by the top here, it was the first position for president in 2020. Now, what you're looking at on the right, it looks exactly the same. That's a vote on the backside. It's not even on the front of the ballot, but it appears on the backside. Just as potent as the vote on the front side. Now, in adjudication terms, that cancels a vote automatically. These machines can be set to read them or not read them. And this year they introduced artificial intelligence to make that decision even before some adjudicators. This could throw out that vote immediately and you don't even know it. But let me tell you why all of this matters with calibration. If you do the wrong paper, even the paper has rules. If you don't provide the right paper for your ballot to protect your vote, and you provide the wrong pins, this is what's happened. This little red outline that you see on my screen right now, that is what the scanner reads. They don't read just the oval, they have an area. They have to be able to read overvotes, markouts, etc. That's what these machines read. So you can understand how this is a problem if even the type of paper that's supposed to be used by law, by compliance, is not used. Very important. Look at this sheet. I just did this as a sample so you'd understand one of the reports. This is only 3 ballots, just so you understand, right? It's only 3 files examined because I can't show you the real numbers. These are real numbers, but not en masse. Now, on these 3 ballots, right, there were 255 potential ovals that could be voted. 90 voted ovals on the ballot. So you vote about 30 things per ballot, just so you understand. So many ovals showed up on the front side. So many ovals that you had 79 potential collisions per the front of the ballot. For every one vote that could be legit, you had a 35.53% overrun. 35.53% over. On exact dead on a line, that literally canceled 3.3% of the votes, period. Period. And with this new artificial intelligence doing adjudication, people didn't even know that, because if you were an adjudicator, sometimes they didn't show it to you, it let you adjudicate other things. Even at its worst instance, the 3 canceled on this particular one ballot right here, the very worst instance of it, its collision rate was 36.66, that's 1 to 36, but it, on its ballot, canceled 10% of every vote cast on that one ballot. This one over here canceled 3.3% of the votes that were cast on that ballot. And over here it didn't cancel any. That was the least instance. These are some of the issues that you cannot see if you just look at the machines, because most of the hacks are in the paperwork to make the machines do things, and it makes the machines look squeaky clean because the records will support it. But you're going to understand here in a minute why even the records in the machines are corrupt. Now, first off, we're going to do a little eyeball test here for you, right? I'm 57. My eyes have started going crappy. I have to wear glasses for everything now, so don't feel bad if you can't make these out. This is a human marking an oval. Okay? That's an actual human vote on an oval at very, very simple resolution, right? You can kind of see the fibers in there, etc. And the next image that's going to pop up, that's what a machine does. Now you can see it looks kind of completely different. It's really solid, there's no waves in it or anything like that. You know, you can see textures in this one, and this one is just really a weird black solid. But also, why would a mail-in ballot, which you go at home, you didn't print your ovals in. That's number one. So that's the first dead giveaway. Something's wrong. It wasn't done with a pen, wasn't done with a human hand. It's printed on there. But also this print, you can see they tried to make it look like a human hand. Now, all of these things work together in unison and other things into machines to basically trick the machines into what they're looking at. You probably don't even know that these machines can read a copied ballot, a duplicated ballot. They don't even know the difference in a blank ballot in many precincts, depending upon the setting. They all have variable settings. What you're looking at here is an actual vote from Fulton County, Georgia, same machines you use. They tell you that these machines are very sophisticated and they can see everything. But first, let me give you the standard before I have you go back and look at the image. The exact standard that these voting machines scan in at, although they say it's 200 dpi, 300 dpi, the actual rate it scans in at, the image quality, is 72 dpi. 72. And they completely eliminate the Kodak grayscale, which I'm going to show you in a minute. In case you don't know what that reference is, that's the IEEE engineering standard for a 1980 fax. That's how bad these machines are. They cannot pick up all of these subtleties. So take a look here. On the left is kind of what these voting machines store and want you to see as a vote. As you can see, you can't tell anything about it. On the right is what we see when we do a proper forensic audit the right way. We do not rely on the bogus, rigged, cast images in the machines because even they're rigged. And this is what lawmakers don't tell you, and when they don't get educated on this, they miss it, and they throw you under the bus because they're more interested in getting a bill, right? They're more interested in getting a bill passed and having their name on something rather than doing what's absolutely right. Let me give you a good example because I've noticed this across the country. You'll take some junior lawmaker or somebody that's really long in the tooth, right? And you'll take some person that's been in politics, want to get back into politics, and they'll jam together a bill that means absolute squat. Means nothing for you because it's not going to change anything. But see, these guys want a few things. They want political clout. That's their trading card. They want to trade. They want political clout. But the first person they trade on is your freedom and liberties. They'll trade that in a heartbeat to get them back into office. And so what they'll do, pardon my French, but they'll baffle you with bullshit. And the way they do it is they'll put out a report and they'll include all these names they can on it. This group and this group and this group and the IITT and the Nitwit Club and everything else on it, and they'll list them all out, and their document will say absolutely nothing. Because they bank on you looking at the smoke and mirrors of all those bogus names, that those too don't know what a full forensic audit is, has never done it. They rely on you to look at all those bogus names, get prestige, and they're going to get the bill through. And their only job is to try to push something through so they can say, I wrote that bill. Just like Joe Biden wrote every bill that existed. I wrote that. I came up with that bill, right? That is what happens in a tremendous amount of this stuff. And it is a total disservice to the citizens. I only answer to the American public, not the politicians. Let's continue on. Here we go. Okay. And so that's how bad these ovals are in the machines. That's incredibly how bad they are. They can't read. They can't tell any nuances. On the right, you can see it's a gall pen. Now this one, this is actually an interesting, tricky one. This is actually a legit ballot in both cases. An actual, bona fide, certified, legit printed ballot. I'm going to show you about the codes in a minute because they're all hidden codes in the paper, even though the media tells you they're not. On the left, you can see the curlicues, the fibers broke up, the swirls. When you start to lift your hand, your mind knows when you're done with that oval, whether you're artistic or not. And it already starts to relieve the pressure. And that's why you'll see lighter spots in this. If you look at the one on the right, now that you look at it, you can see it's planted like cornrows. It's made to look kind of like a human hand. But if I point it out to you, you basically know there's no torn up fibers like the one on the left. It doesn't have any 3D look to it at all. It's primarily made of a bunch of dots where the one on the left is not, and it looks like it's planted fields of corn. Why? Because that's how the printer prints. And this is a printer filling in a legal ballot, trying to make it look like it was hand voted. By the way, there is no excuse for a mail-in ballot to have a pre-printed vote on it unless you are manufacturing them en masse. That's a crime, and it's a crime against humanity. So I'm going to show you different things here. I'm going to show you my actual overview report for the things are done. So it doesn't mean everybody in the world's in on the rig and it was some master evil plot for $1 billion. That's not what it means. This can be done even without you knowing about it if certain people know how to do the process. So let me play this one video for you. I'm going to show you one thing real quick. Check this out. But by the way, you'll need to know that these papers these ballots, regardless of whatever the government's told you, and they hid it in, we were looking for bamboo. Here is the secret code in the papers. It's there, it's present. That's why you saw UV lights on the floor, and this is my system detecting it. And all of the legal printers have these codes embedded in them, so we know exactly what printer they came off of, were they legal, were they certifiable. You're looking behind at the code as we detect these. That's why we look at the ballots this way. And so we can actually tell if the ballot is in fact legal or not, and the right ballot. Media denies that, but that's part of the rig. Let me show you this one. This is how you can explain all of these come together. We give all of these nicknames, like when we're looking for duplicates, it's our Twinkie code, right? When we're looking for broken code that just doesn't work and couldn't understand how to do it, that's our Biden code. No, I'm kidding. Literally, I'm just playing. We give them nicknames. You're going to look at our DRAC drift code here. Our DRAC drift code is we call it DRAC. You'll see why at the end, but we're looking, how does the drift change the nature of the ballot? Here we go.
This video will explain the Pulitzer Kinematic Artifact Detection Platform's PCAD DRAC Drift Report.
The DRAC Drift Report is a secondary report created from the data discovered when checking for out-of-calibration printing when combined with using the wrong election ballot paper stock.
DRAC Drift measures a unique nefarious activity that combines out-of-compliance ballot paper stock with out-of-calibration printed ballots and the use of the traffic cop soft hack at polling stations. What is the traffic cop soft hack? It begins when the voter arrives at the voting precinct, either when verifying them as registered voters or by asking the voter to self-identify as either a Democrat or Republican. When a nefarious poll worker can identify the voter by type, they simply hand the voter a Sharpie or marker to cast their vote.
When you combine the use of a Sharpie or marker with an out-of-calibration printed ballot and an out-of-compliance ballot paper, a low-tech paper hack has been perpetrated. The out-of-calibration print allows voting ovals on the backside to drift directly adjacent or astride of a key voting oval on the front. Then when this OC is combined with bad paper, which is designed to allow the backside to bleed over into the front side, this is what occurs. An oval legally voted on the front of the ballot, the DRAC drift causes bleeding or bleed through oval on the backside to appear to the vote scanner and tally system as an overvote. This overvote either forces the canceling of a person's vote or forces the ballot to be adjudicated by an election official.
One added feature, electronic adjudication. Sometimes voters return ballots with smudges, bleed-throughs, or overvotes that need to be reviewed.
Some say an adjudication of a vote is a legitimate process for assuring the voter's vote is tallied correctly if there are errors. But what if the DRAC drift is designed to cancel one party's vote? What if it could make an unvoted oval on the front appear as if it was legally voted? The DRAC drift can give the adjudicator plausible reason to cast a vote for a different candidate, even though they are really seeing an oval printed and voted on the backside of the ballot. It is also important to point out that the vote machine scanners, which say they are at least 200 dpi, actually store the scanned image at 72 dpi and eliminate the Kodak grayscale. This is done nefariously to make bleed-through ovals look like they are actually legit cast votes on the side of the ballot being scanned.
The voting machines in precincts that use out-of-calibration printed ballots, along with out-of-compliance ballot papers, should coincide with voting precincts that display abnormally high ballot adjudication rates. DRAC drift can literally suck away votes from one candidate and assign them to another by using this very low-tech simple hack. Even the voting machines in the precincts have a sensitivity setting to either flag or ignore these types of activities. Something as simple as bleed through on the ballot and drift of the printing calibration can change the outcome of an election. That is why we investigate Dracula's drift in our PCAD systems, so the life of our nation does not get sucked away by simple low-tech hacks.
And so we call it DRAC drift because it's bleed through and it's our Dracula report. The bottom line is we do about 26 different forensic investigations on the ballots. Right now, when you vote on a ballot and it goes into the voting machine, tally machine, it is transferring that ballot into code and dropping it in a spreadsheet. Once your ballot becomes code and dropped into a spreadsheet, it can be changed any way they want, and it can also make the machine generate a different image. What we do is we deal only with an exact forensic clone of the ballot. It's either scanned in a very certain way, or it's done photographically, but we were dealing with a historic document. We want to look at how your ballot was cast at the moment it left your hand. You know, we've been told in the past every vote counts. I think in 2020 we learned that means every illegal vote counts, every dead person vote counts. That doesn't do good anymore. We now need every vote to count exactly the way it was cast. All of this work you see is down to the precinct. These 20 plus reports are all down to the precinct. For the first time in history, you will actually understand and see where your nefarious precincts are. It's never been able to be done before. There are many confidential things about other audits I can't tell you at this point, but I can tell you, if you don't really look at the ballots, you won't affect change. A lot of these people talk about, well, we got to see the tally rolls, and we got to see the poll pads, and we got to see this. That's been done before, and nefarious things have been found. It has never changed a law. Never. Never in the history of American politics. The difference is digital things can be excused. Oh, that was just a glitch. That was one bad machine. We don't know who did it. We don't know how it got there. You can have EAC, you can have legal certifications of the machine, which is a rig in and of itself. And they put it on the machine. That's what they basically look at. But there's no rules about doing updates. So even when you do simple updates, it can undo the version you have. By a show of hands, how many of you have heard of a Dominion voting machine? By a show of hands, how many have seen a Dominion voting machine? Do you know Dominion does not make voting machines? When you see Dominion sitting and testifying in front of our Congress to say we do not make machines that connect to the internet, that is a lie. They are telling the truth. Do you know why they're telling the truth? Because the media has manipulated your brain to think that there is such thing as a Dominion voting machine, and they don't manufacture a single machine. They are a software company, have always been a software company, and the manufacturer of the machine, down to the name on it, is Dell. That's how this game is played. It's mishmash of words. You also have to understand the rules of audits. When Attorney Barr, how many felt Attorney Barr let us down when they said, we're not going to do a general, this is not a rigged question, but please tell the truth, I'm not catching. It says, we're not going to assign a prosecutor because we just don't believe there's enough to cause a material outcome of the election. Did anyone all hear that? You all remember that? Okay, great, thank you very much. You know how that works? Let me tell you how it works. How it works is, if I was in your state, and your state had X candidate win by 100,000 votes, and I was to show you 95,000 illegal votes, and I went to your Secretary of State or your Attorney General and I showed them that, they can say by law, you think if I could find 95,000, they're going to give me access to everything, right? Let's look at some more. I got a little bit. We know it's here. Let's look at it more. That's not how the law is written, folks. The bottom line is, if you can't show independently, even before you go for them, there's enough to change the outcome of the election, They are not legally required for you to look at it. So I could show 95,000 bad illegal votes. And because I didn't show 100,001, we missed the threshold. And that is where these politicians let you down. Let's do a fractional audit. We're going to go in to 10% of the, or 20% of the precincts. We're going to look at 10% of the things. Let me tell you how that rig works in and of itself. They'll never find enough. And then when they go to the court, you think you're going to get another shot at it. You're not going to get another shot, because at that point, if you went to 20% of the precincts, they're going to say you went to hundreds of places, Your Honor. Look at this. They still didn't find anything, but they want more. This is just punitive. It's burdensome. That's why it doesn't happen. You don't believe me? I'm going to give you the auditor's test. Do this at home. Do it for friends that do not believe these things are bad. You'll get a ream of paper. Everybody understand what a ream of paper is? That's just a brand new case of paper and it's a little white sheet. There's 500 sheets in there. Take them out. Hand 4 sheets, hand 5 sheets to your kids and have them make a mark of their very own in the bottom right-hand corner of 5 of those sheets. You could even do it with 10. But 5 of the, it's only 3 or 4 ballots, 5 ballots per precinct that swings an election. You take those sheets and mix them all in those 500, and then you hold them on that corner and let them fan out, and you have them pick 5 sheets out of that and see if they even find one of the dots. You can't do it. And that's why even the audits are rigged. You've heard of risk limiting audits? You want to know what those are in Fulton, Georgia? That's Dominion choosing. They hand choose 250 ballots that they choose. They insert it into their machine to see if it counts right. And if it's right, it's certified. That's a risk limiting audit. Let me decode that for you. We want to limit the risk of our asses getting in trouble and going to jail, and we're going to do this kind of audit. That's exactly the only thing it means. Then down to these board of supervisors. Let me tell you again about Maricopa County. To have a bad game, to have a rig, you're a casino state, you know this. People work in the casino business know you have machines that pay better than others. They'll move them up to the front, suck you in, want to get you further back, right? It's a known rig. Well, to have a bad rig, you have to have good rigs. You have to have good machines. You have to have good things. That's why in your state, you can have over 5,000 places with machines, but yet they're only going to look at, we looked at 1,300 places. We looked at 18,000 physical ballots out of 5.4 million. They always, you see, they determine the scope of the audit. They always point to the good machines. They need them to get past the audits. That is why you need to look at every single ballot. Every single ballot. My parting word here, so you understand, and if there's questions, I'll take a few, is number 1. 2020 spent the most money in history on an election. From top to bottom, all the ways you could spend it. $14 billion. $14 billion. It was the most ballots ever printed. The most ballots ever mailed. The most ballots ever returned by mail. The most ballots ever counted. The most rules ever changed at the last minute. I could keep on going on, and what everybody wants to do is go to the same old 50, 60-year standard of audits. To me, that's the definition of lunacy. And so they will try to razzmatazz and smoke and mirrors, put out fancy documents that mean absolutely nothing, and you have to have a very serious thought for yourself. If you're just trying to do it to say you do it, that's one thing, but if you're trying to get answers, you have to do something different. That's what we do. It's wildly expensive. It costs 25 cents. And for 25 cents, we do 26 things. But yet we can study have $1 billion of transgendered salamanders in Afghanistan. Right? That's the rig, folks. Everything's rigged, from how the law's written, how the machines are done, how the buddy system works, and how the audits are done. And I'll open it up for questions if you have them. And then I'm done.
If you have questions, can I get you to come up here and talk, just because you're going to have a hard time hearing? Come on up to the computers.
I have a hard time hearing, so you're going to have to pantomime in front of the camera for me, please.
This one right here.
Hey, thank you for showing up here.
Sure.
So we did.
Look at those guns. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. I got to protect myself. Unfortunately, we've been hitting
There you go.
Democrats pretty hard. We had one federal court case involving an election already. One of my members won that.
Right.
And we've got a second one now with my board of canvassers getting removed.
Right.
Hopefully, we're going to win that one. Well, one of our precincts, we already did an unofficial recount and investigated all of the absentee ballot applications, everything. And we took photos of each ballot. And what I was interested, you said how it was actually printing in the circles. And I can tell you, I noticed a couple of these circles that they looked more like it was printed. And they still
Correct, they're there.
And it was one after another. And off the top of my head, that might have been one where we saw 5 absentee ballot applications in a row, no signature. And I wonder if there wasn't some fix, and when they did this audit, where they do like 7 ballots, this precinct had 800. They did the audit. We were finally able to do ours afterward. The seals were broken off all the bags.
Of course. Not a single, in Maricopa County, this is public knowledge so I can share with you, 1,675 boxes. There were only like 50 boxes that were officially sealed, and that's what they did in their own hand recount. They sealed those, all the rest were open.
So I don't know if any other county's done this, but I've already seen it one time. I mean, 1 for 1, that's a good batting average. So I hope we can get something going statewide because it's gonna crack it open.
Do you know what your state's going to battle? And I'm going to call it like it is. I owe nobody nothing. Nobody has anything on me, and frankly, I also don't care. It doesn't matter. I just do my job. It's binary. It's either the right ballot, the right way, the right systems, or not. But I have found, I can understand the left. The left just wants to rob our way of life and force me to have pink hair and decide I'm sex number 47. I understand them completely. I get it. And they make their agenda known. The enemy we fight is on the right. I learned in Arizona they're called McCainites. They're not GOPers and they're not Republicans. And every state has a difference. And I am telling you, my friends, you are in one of those states.
Yes, we are.
And they no more act a conservative to save America. They'll toot it up and they'll say it, but they will not put it on paper because they're looking for bargaining chips and other stuff, and there's so much stuff under the. It's sickening. I'm telling you, I've never seen any, and I'm a smart guy, and I've survived Wall Street and all kinds of things, but I've never seen anything as bad as this. And if it's going to be fixed, it's we the people, and that's it. Period. You have to have a high standard for these
The
guys.
county's with you, and I know the other counties are, so thank you guys for what you're doing. Thanks, Mandy.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, then I'll sign off. I appreciate everybody. I know this was very fast and a mouthful. My parting words for you is, I even saw a document, I think, circulating today with a lot of fancy names on it. It meant absolutely nothing. Meant absolutely nothing. Right? And I just want to tell you, words matter. If you learned one thing from me, when I said that even like Attorney Barr, words matter. Let me give you one more final example. In Maricopa County, Arizona, Pro V&V did an audit. They did it February 28th, and Secretary Hobbs came out and said, there's nothing to see here, folks. It wasn't whatever. There was no fraud. Here's how the audit went. Pro V&V, where there's no such thing as a certified election auditor. That's a lie, number one. They use the same people because they squeak by. Pro V&V came in. Here's what they're supposed to look at. They're supposed to look at what the Election Assistance Commission approved for the machine. That means it's a punch list. When they look at the machine, they check off a punch list. Was that software here? Was that software here? Was that software here? They can't report if they find something else. That's against the rules. They have to stay within the scope of the audit. And so they click these things off. In looking at those audits, you can see the machines. They certified them all. They only said, yep, it has the right software. When we look at the machines from the report and we pull up their serial numbers, we found half of the machines were bogus numbers, so you couldn't track them, and the other ones had built-in cellular comm modems into the motherboard.
Wow.
Don't even think the audits are real, folks.
Another question. Jovan, one more question for you, sir.
How you doing?
Sure.
Hey. What do you think about Michael Lindell and his synapse there, the symposium, and have you been helping him out at all?
I actually named Absolute Proof, the first one you saw. I know Mike exceptionally well. I stay in the physical realm of the paper ballots. Remember, somebody signed for them, somebody paid for them, somebody mailed them. When I prove what I prove, that's federal racketeering. It's not an accident, right? So I operate in a completely different field. I love Mike Lindell to the death. He is the epitome of what an American patriot should be. He's taken one for the team.
Yes.
Now, if you follow me on social media, you'll learn one thing. I do not follow other people. And I do that because I'm also an expert witness. So I don't watch any of that stuff. I have never watched Absolute Proof or any of them. I don't follow anybody's stuff. So here's what I can say. I can't comment because I have no idea.
So you also do the forensic on the folding, right? If they folded multiple times.
Absolutely. Let me query you a few things. The folding, when they're mailed, have to be done a very specific way. And machines do it a very specific and concise way. We're so good not only at doing it that we can tell you if they were actually went through the mail. We have found boxes in other places that somehow when they did their audit, they were flat. Somehow between that and me saying I could find they weren't folded, they got folded, but we can see every one of them was folded by hand. I'm not worried about them going back and folding them. They do me a favor. I encourage them. I highly encourage them. Try to hide your tracks.
Thank you.
You do me a favor. Thank you.
Anyone else before we let Jovan go? Cindy's got one, okay.
Hi.
Hello. I just want to say thank you so much for stepping up and helping Michigan because we are in desperate need of it.
Thank you.
And we appreciate everything that you're about to do for our state. And you will be here in North Carolina.
Thank you. I hope so, folks. I really do. I'm agnostic in it. I still work with other teams. The Arizona team, Cyber Ninjas, Doug Logan, rock star, right? And then another group that was out of Philadelphia that the other half of the equation inserted in. I can work with and across all teams. I'm not an auditor. I'm a technologist. I do a study. You have hard facts. You have hard evidence. 2 million images I looked at. When I run these programs, not only do we create a proof file, kind of like a heads-up display on a fighter jet, here's where the problem is, here's what it looks like, we give them back 25 million evidence photos. Wow. This is all in the physical realm. I don't have to have you figure out how the code did it. We will show you visually how it was done. And we do hope we get this done. I think you're in good hands. Mr. DePerno and stuff is working with this on me. We're working our best to work with your state to help draft exactly what is needed for the people. I tried this, I'll be transparent with you. I tried it with Rep. Cara. He would not confirm that he would put certain things in to make it a full forensic audit. I tried very hard with Patrick. I'm now on Patrick's poo-poo list. He doesn't like me. I appreciate him being a patriot. But you got to know what you're doing and you have to do it. And I just can't support that. There is an exact way to do it to get answers. Everything else, you're wasting time and effort. And it's just about doing it right, folks, and that's all I care about. So thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Very easy.
All right, so in the interest of time, it is 8:30 and I told you I would let you all out, but I know that most of us are going to be standing here and staying here to answer any and all questions you have. So if you have questions, I don't know how late Matt's a very busy man, but we're here to answer any and all questions you have, so please come see us. The building closes at 9:30. I'll go out to the parking lot and talk. It doesn't matter. I want to make sure you guys are ready for this. And as we move forward in the next couple weeks, as we submit this information to the Board of Canvassers, you'll be hearing from John Smith and myself as we start pushing more of this information out so you guys can get that out to where it needs to go. Okay, so again, I appreciate you guys being here. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys being here. One more thing, John's going to go ahead and close this on final remarks, and I want you guys to have a blessed night as soon as he does. Thank you.
Hey everybody, if you don't have my email or if you don't have my contact, get with me because I don't know everybody in the room. But I also want our county chairs to start talking to each other and our grassroots talking to the county chairs. This is something that Democrats like to do, and it's working really well for them. So we have to do this and communicate with each other on ways to be more effective. Also, Nick, he's not here right now, but he had a really good question about Section 3 of what we're putting out. And it is a challenging part of this. So this is something that we were going to address this week as far as moving forward. He knows because he helped put that together with Steve Carrera's bill. So we actually copied that part, and we're trying to, I guess you could say, finish it up, make sure it's that solid to get it in. So it should be finished by the end of the week. We are putting something in. That's we can tear this up into it's a whole different thing, and that's like songs get made that way too. So you can go on a song, make a song, and keep editing edit until it's a whole new song. You can do the same thing with a bill. So we have to get something in. We have to get something that's solid and something that's right, and we got to get it going now because we're out of time. So go ahead, CJ.
I noticed back here this dear lady has been filming all evening long. Done a very good job.
Hey, I just want to say God bless you all for being here too, because it just shows how much we all care about our state and care about our elections. It's that important. Go ahead, CJ, again.
Here's my actual question. Can the film of everything, this meeting tonight, everything she's taken, the presentation we got, can that somehow be gotten out to all of us? Because there's, I know 1 million people on the west side of the state who've got to see this.
Usagainstmedia.com.
Usagainstmedia.com?
Yes.
Logic's View on YouTube.
Logic View?
Logic's View.
Logic's View on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And everything will be on there, the whole meeting? Everything?
Yes.
The whole thing?
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Have a great night. Have a safe trip home.
Can you imagine a world without fake news? A world where fear, hate, and propaganda no longer exists and unity can thrive? That's why we're here. Us Against Media reports facts that really happen. We provide original reports and uncover bad politics for local Michiganders. We love what we do and want to continue, but we need your support to help us continue to spread conservative views. Please go to www.usagainstmedia.com and click on the support link to help us continue our fight.